The champagne was flowing at the Richardson family celebration. Through the window of my former restaurant, I could see my ex-wife Victoria raising her glass in a toast, while her father Richard smugly surveyed what he thought was the wreckage of my life's work. If only they knew what was coming. I'm James Carter, and this is the story of how my ex-wife's wealthy family spent $3.2 million to destroy my restaurant, only to discover they'd walked right into my trap. Let me take you back to where it all began. 5 years ago, I was just a chef with a dream and a small inheritance from my grandmother. Victoria was a regular at the high-end restaurant where I worked, always ordering the same thing: seared scallops with truffle risotto. She was beautiful, sophisticated, and completely out of my league, or so I thought. When she started requesting that I personally prepare her meals, I was flattered. When she asked me out after her third visit, I was stunned. What I didn't realize then was that dating me was her form of rebellion against her old money family. The Richardsons were Boston aristocracy, with roots going back to the Mayflower. Richard Richardson III had built their family investment firm into a billion-dollar empire. They lived in a mansion in Beacon Hill, summered in the Hamptons, and considered anyone who actually worked for a living to be beneath them. A chef. Victoria's mother Elizabeth had sneered when we were first introduced. How quaint. But Victoria seemed different. She praised my culinary skills, encouraged my dreams of opening my own restaurant, and eventually said yes when I proposed. Her family's opposition only seemed to make her more determined to marry me. What I didn't know then was that Victoria had a pattern of dating inappropriate men to upset her parents, only to eventually bow to family pressure and end things. I was just the first one who had managed to get her to the altar before the pattern could complete itself. We married in a small ceremony, Victoria's choice, though I later learned it was because her family refused to host a large wedding for us. They did, however, insist on a prenuptial agreement that essentially guaranteed I would walk away with nothing if we divorced. It's just a formality, Victoria had assured me. We'll never need it. The first year was good. Victoria seemed to enjoy playing at being a normal person, and I was busy building my dream. I'd found a prime location for my restaurant in Boston's North End, and thanks to my grandmother's inheritance and a small business loan, I was able to make it happen. But there was something Victoria and her family didn't know, something that would eventually turn their world upside down. You see, while working as a chef, I'd developed a unique concept for a restaurant franchise. My grandmother's inheritance hadn't just gone into that one location. It had gone into trademarking my recipes, developing a comprehensive franchise system, and quietly opening locations across the country through holding companies. The Boston location was just the flagship store, the visible tip of a very large iceberg. Victoria knew about the one restaurant, of course. She even worked there occasionally, playing at being a restaurateur's wife. But she had no interest in the business side of things, and I never corrected her assumption that this was my only venture. The problem started when the restaurant became successful, too successful. Suddenly, the Richardsons couldn't dismiss me as Victoria's working-class husband anymore. The Boston Globe did a feature on us. Food critics raved. Reservations were booked months in advance. That's when Victoria started to change. She wanted to take a more active role in the business, not as a worker, but as an executive. She began talking about how her family could help expand the restaurant, making it worthy of the Richardson name. Daddy's investment firm could take us national, she'd say. We could open locations in all the right cities. I always deflected these suggestions, which led to increasingly heated arguments. Victoria couldn't understand why I wouldn't want her family's help. The truth was, I already had locations in all the right cities, and quite a few of the wrong ones too. Then came the final straw. I overheard Victoria on the phone with her father late one night. Yes, Daddy, I know. You were right about him. No, he won't accept our help. Yes, I'm sure about the divorce. But what about the restaurant? It's actually worth something now. Really? You can do that? Perfect. The next day, Victoria served me with divorce papers. The prenup she'd insisted was just a formality came into full effect. But that wasn't the worst part. The Richardsons had a plan to destroy me completely. They would wait until the divorce was final, then used their financial power to forcibly buy my restaurant through a hostile takeover, only to shut it down. They thought this would leave me bankrupt and broken. What they didn't know was that I had recordings of every conversation where they'd planned this, including Victoria's late-night call with her father. My restaurant's security system had excellent audio. I let the divorce proceed smoothly, appearing appropriately devastated. Victoria got the house, the car, and a substantial settlement, all of which I could easily afford to lose. The Richardsons were so focused on their plan for the restaurant that they never wondered why I didn't fight harder over the other assets. 3 months after the divorce was final, Richard Richardson made his move. Through a series of shell companies, he began buying up the business loans and applying pressure to my suppliers. Eventually, he presented me with what he thought was an impossible choice: sell the restaurant to him for $3.2 million, well over its apparent value, or watch it get destroyed piece by piece. I made a show of reluctance, then signed the papers selling him the Boston location. The Richardsons threw a party right there in my former restaurant. They invited all their society friends to witness their triumph. Victoria was there in a designer dress that probably cost more than what they thought was my entire net worth. I watched through the window as Richard Richardson raised his glass. "To the end of the Carter restaurant empire," he proclaimed, getting laughs from the assembled guests. That was my cue. I walked in, still wearing my chef's whites. The room went silent. "Congratulations on your purchase," I said pleasantly. "I hope you enjoy owning one franchise location out of 50. The silence turned to confusion. Victoria's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the floor. "What do you mean franchise?" Richard demanded. I smiled, pulling out my phone. "Here, let me show you our locations. We've got 10 in New York, 8 in California, 5 in Chicago." I pulled up the company website, which until now had been hidden behind a password wall. "Oh, and we're opening 15 more next month." "That's impossible," Victoria whispered. "This was your only restaurant. I would have known." "Would you?" I asked mildly. "You never did take much interest in the business side of things. Too beneath you, I suppose." Richard's face had turned an interesting shade of purple. "You're lying. We did due diligence. On this location, yes. But you never thought to look deeper, did you? You assumed I was just a simple chef who got lucky. Want to know what your $3.2 million actually bought you? A franchise license, some kitchen equipment, and the right to use my recipes, as long as you keep the restaurant open and maintain our quality standards." I turned to address the stunned party guests. "By the way, if you're ever in another city, please visit one of our mini locations. The company website is now live, and we're offering a special discount to celebrate our national launch." Elizabeth Richardson looked like she might faint. "National launch?" "Oh yes," I continued cheerfully. "We're officially announcing our expansion today. 50 locations and growing. The press release goes out in..." I checked my watch. "About 2 minutes. I'm sure your society friends will be very interested to learn that the Richardsons are now franchise owners." Victoria stormed over to me. "You lying snake. You hid this from me during our marriage." "Actually," I corrected her, "I disclosed everything in the prenup you insisted on. Remember page 17? The part about any and all business interests? You might want to read the fine print next time." Richard was frantically whispering with his lawyers in the corner. One of them was showing him something on a tablet, probably the news stories already breaking about the Carter Restaurant Group's national presence. "You can't do this," he growled. "We'll sell this location, shut it down." "No, you won't," I said calmly. "The franchise agreement you just signed has a 20-year commitment. Break it, and you'll face penalties that would make even your lawyers uncomfortable. Not to mention, you'd be in violation of the non-compete clause." "Non-compete?" Victoria's voice rose to a shriek. "Oh yes. By signing the franchise agreement, you've agreed not to open any competing restaurants within 100 miles of any Carter Restaurant Group location. And since we're in all the major cities..." The implications slowly dawned on their faces. The Richardsons, who own shares in several high-end restaurant groups, had just accidentally signed away their right to be in the restaurant business at all, unless they wanted to keep running my franchise. "But here's the best part," I continued. Remember those conversations you had about destroying my business? The ones in this very restaurant. I pointed to the security cameras. They're all recorded. I'm sure the SEC would be very interested in hearing about your plan to manipulate business loans and pressure suppliers for a hostile takeover. Richard's face went from purple to ashen. He knew exactly how serious SEC violations could be. What do you want? He asked through gritted teeth. Just what I already have. You running my franchise successfully. Think of it as a learning experience. You wanted to be in the restaurant business? Well, now you are. From the ground up. I turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Victoria? Those seared scallops you love so much? There are Thursday special at all locations. Feel free to stop by any time. The aftermath was spectacular. The story of how the Richardsons had accidentally bought into a national franchise made all the business papers. Their society friends were simultaneously amused and appalled. Richard's investment firm lost several major clients who were concerned about his business judgment. Victoria, unable to face the humiliation, moved to Europe. Last I heard, she was dating a titled but penniless British lord, probably another rebellion against her parents. The Richardsons had no choice but to make their franchise location successful. Any failure would reflect badly on them, not me. They actually turned out to be decent franchise owners once they got over their initial rage. Elizabeth even learned to work the host stand during rush hours. As for me, the publicity from the whole affair drove business through the roof. We expanded to 100 locations within a year. Turns out people love a good underdog story, especially one involving karma and scallops. I still wear my chef's whites and work in various locations, much to the confusion of customers who know I'm the CEO. But that's the secret to our success. Never forgetting where you came from, even when life serves you the perfect revenge. Epilogue. 5 years later, the Carter Restaurant Group has become one of the most successful restaurant chains in the country. We're known not just for our food, but for our unique business model that ensures quality across all locations. The Richardsons franchise consistently ranks among our top performers. Nothing motivates like wounded pride. Richard and Elizabeth actually learned something about the value of hard work, though they'd never admit it. Victoria occasionally sends messages through mutual friends, hinting that she'd like to talk about things. I forward these to our customer service department with a standard reply. Thank you for your interest in the Carter Restaurant Group. Would you like to make a reservation? I've expanded the menu to include new dishes, but we still serve those seared scallops with truffle risotto every Thursday. They're our best-selling special, though Victoria hasn't ordered them since the night of the divorce. Last month, a young chef came to me with an idea for a new restaurant concept. Instead of buying him out or stealing his idea, I helped him set up his own franchise system. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just success, it's helping others succeed too. The security tapes. The recordings of the Richardsons plotting to destroy my business haven't been released. They're safely stored away with multiple copies in various locations. But their existence ensures that the family maintains our high standards in their franchise location. Sometimes during their mandatory franchise owner meetings, I catch Richard looking at the security cameras with a mixture of rage and respect. He finally learned what his money couldn't buy: integrity and foresight. The business model. Our franchise system has become a case study in business schools. The unique structure ensures quality control while allowing for local variation. Each franchise owner must work in their restaurant regularly. No absentee ownership allowed. This requirement particularly irritates the Richardsons, but they comply. There's something poetic about seeing Richard Richardson III in an apron, learning the proper way to plate our signature dishes. My grandmother's small inheritance didn't just help me start a restaurant. It helped me build a legacy of good food, fair business practices, and sweet karma. Each new location creates jobs, opportunities, and occasionally perfect revenge. Life has a way of serving exactly what you deserve. Sometimes it comes with truffle risotto. The Carter Restaurant Group continues to grow, but we never forget our core values. Every new franchise owner gets the same speech. Success isn't about the money. It's about creating something lasting, something honest. Even the Richardsons have come to appreciate this, though they'd never say it out loud. They've learned that running a successful restaurant requires more than just capital. It requires heart, dedication, and a willingness to serve others. As for me, I still love being in the kitchen, creating new dishes and teaching our staff. Success hasn't changed that. It's just given me a bigger kitchen and more people to teach. Sometimes the best dishes, like the best revenge, take time to prepare. But when all the ingredients come together perfectly, the result is absolutely delicious. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next video. Stay stunned.